Well, I wanted to introduce us both first of all. So I am John Jones. I'm an academic advisor here at UBC Vancouver, so working with our first year students extensively and throughout your time with us at UBCV. And I'm here with my colleague, Callie, who I'll let introduce herself too.
Hi everyone, my name is Callie Dumbrell. I'm an associate academic advisor and I work at EAS with John. It's very nice to meet you all today.
Thanks so much, Callie. So, a little bit about ourselves in terms of EAS. Like I say, we work really extensively with you as first year students. So, from this very early point now to throughout your time at UEC, we're going to be your advising office. So, absolutely happy to help with anything that comes up for you. Like I say, anytime from now onwards, if you're struggling with anything, if you have a question about anything, we're here to help and make sure that you have the support you need to have success here at UBC. So, lovely to meet those of you who are seeing us for the first time, and if you've had the experience of working with us before, welcome back. And hopefully this is one of many, or the first of many for some of you. So a little bit on our session here today, and just some information for you. So first of all, don't worry at all about taking any notes here today. I know there's going to be a lot of information, but the good news is we'll be emailing you a link to the detailed version of this presentation. There will be slides with links, various different things involved on that detailed version of the presentation. So the things that we're going through today, the screenshots you'll see, all of those things will be available on those slides with also links to further information for you as well. So the session is being recorded today. So if you are asking any questions, kind of going through that route at all, and you don't want us to call out your name, there's not going to be any microphones on, any cameras on, or anything in this session, so you can relax about that. But perhaps if you're writing a question in our Q&A and you'd rather keep anonymous, you're very welcome to change any details, change your name, or set your question to be anonymous in there as well. So just be warned a little bit there about getting too personal with anything as well. Like if you have a question that's really specific or personal to your own case, we'd love to meet with you outside of this session and make sure that we're kind of talking to you separately about that. Please don't share your student number or any personal information in the questions or anything else here today. We can certainly, if there's anything of that nature, we'd be really happy to support you outside of this session. But if you do have any questions that perhaps more general or anything you just have a question about, we do have a Q&A function here. It should be on the bottom side on the menu bar that you have here on your Zoom, depending on how you have it set up here today. But there should be a Q&A option that will allow you to ask any questions throughout the session. We have our student supports team here in the background today answering any questions throughout the session, typing in answers for you. And then there's also going to be a designated Q&A period at the end of the session where Callie and I will rotate reading out questions out loud and answering those here as well. So if you do have any questions, you're welcome to ask those there. If there are any questions that you feel are particularly strong that you'd love to hear the answer to, you can also upvote those questions. I would also say that many of the questions you might ask at this stage may well come up at some point during the presentation. We may answer them by the time we get to the end here. So you might just want to hold fire on a few of those questions until we get further along. And then if you did have them still at the end, like I say, there's going to be the opportunity to ask at that point. So please feel free. Okay, with our admin part done, let's get started on the session itself. So we are going into registration right now, and it's important to know what we are registering for here at UBC. So we split the year at UBC into the winter session and the summer session, and those are then divided into terms individually as well. So we have both term 1 and term 2 of the winter session, term 1 and term 2 of the summer session. So registration for the winter session, both term 1 and term 2, takes place over the summer. So that's the one we're coming up to. That's the one we're preparing you for. That's what we're going to be doing over the next month or two here, is getting our registration together for the winter session. So term 1 and term 2 of winter, basically September to December, and then January to April terms. Registration for the summer terms will come much later. That's around March time. So we'll kind of have that conversation further down the line next year. For now, we're going to focus on those winter session classes. And just a note here as well, as you can see on the screen, June 24th to 26th is the first year registration dates. So you will ahead of that time in a couple of weeks beforehand, receive a specific time slot that's going to indicate the earliest time that you individually can register within that time period. And we do recommend registering as soon as that time slot opens. So as soon as your individual registration time is available, that you're just prepared and ready to go. And we're going to let you know some of the things you can do during the session to make sure you're prepared and ready to go when that happens. So much more to come here on that one. So again, our registration timeline here, you will receive your registration appointment with the date and time of that appointment, indicating the earliest time you can self-register yourself. So that will be the time that you can jump on, register the classes you need. Now, at that point, you should also have pre-registered classes. So we are going to be working hard to get all of the students registered in your first year physics, maths, chemistry, and applied science courses. So depending on which of those, what path you're going to, and we're going to get to that shortly, you will be registered in all of the courses you need from that perspective. And then in the week of 24th to 27th of June, that registration slot, that registration appointment you're going to have, that's when you can go ahead and register for your first year English and your humanities social science classes as well. So again, we're going to get into much more detail about all of these things, but just a bit of a high level overview here on what we can expect. And again, we recommend planning to register for those additional courses as soon as your appointment is live. So just bearing in mind that appointment time, making sure we're ready to go and preparing for that time. So when we have a registration appointment, we're going to be able to go onto Workday and see that registration appointment. So if you haven't been onto Workday before, Workday is a system that we use here at UBC to manage your student record. You can log on to your Workday account as soon as you have your account all set up, as soon as you have your CWL and you've been kind of approved and accepted your offer as such for us here at UBC. You can go onto your Workday account. You do so at myworkday.ubc.ca. You would go onto your academics tab on your My Top Apps menu on the right-hand side of the page. And then you would go into registration and courses, and your registration appointment date and time would be in a table on the left-hand side of the page. There's going to be two appointments because it's going to give you term 1 and term 2. Again, they are all the same at UBC. You're going to be registering at the same time. So it will be the same appointment time that you'll see on there for each of those. Your start time is going to show you when you're going to be able to jump on and start your registration for those additional classes. Okay, so I'm going to pass over to Callie to go over the next little section for you.
Thank you so much, John. Okay, now, what courses will you take in your first year at UBC? Okay, the courses, oh, did we skip ahead? Sorry about that. I think we're having, hold on. Sorry, John, I think there's some.
That's okay.
Perfect. And then I just want the second one. Perfect. Yes. Sorry about that, folks. So the courses you've been pre-registered for depends on your curriculum and your high school background. We will show you the 5 different first-year registration options. All right. These 11 courses are core courses for engineering first-year students. Depending on the curriculum you follow, there are minor differences. This is the list of courses for each curriculum. The courses in bold are the ones that are different from the standard curriculum. If you applied and were accepted to PBME, so just over here, you'll take BMeg 101, BMeg 102, Chem 121, and 123, instead of AppSci 101, Physics 159, and Chem 154. Students in pre-med timetable are registered in Chem 121 and 123 instead of Chem 154. Students in the honors math timetable take Math 120 instead of Math 100 and 121 instead of Math 101. Students in the physics deficiency take Physics 100, 157, and 158 accordingly. sorry, the leg there. You can find the courses you've pre-registered for on Workday. Click Academics tab, and then Registration and Courses, and then View My Courses. And this is how it looks. Please note that while the Workday app can be useful for viewing your schedule in a calendar format, it should not be used to register for or drop courses. Okay, when will I see my timetable? If you have filled out our timetable request form, by the end of May, early June, you may see some course registration. All core engineering courses will be added by mid-June, and we will email you to confirm when registration into your timetable is finalized. There is a temporary timetable that corresponds to each of the different paths. Temporary timetables serve as a placeholder. Our registration team is currently working on adjusting schedules and enrolling students in their first-year engineering courses. You will receive an email notification once your registration is complete. Register in an English and Humanities course, and we will do our best to create a schedule around your registered courses, but we can't guarantee it.
Thank you, Callie. Okay, so we're gonna talk about how we're gonna self-register in our remaining first-year courses. So all of those classes that we are not finding in our engineering timetable. So as Callie's kind of covered a little bit there, our engineering timetables are going to contain most, but not all of the required first-year courses. So you're also going to need a first-year English course. And in most cases, you'll also take a 3-credit humanities social science course. Now, in the PBME timetable specifically, so one of those timetables we briefly saw, you will not take 3 credits humanities this year. You take those 3 credits later on. Some of you also may have AP, IB, A-level credit covering one of these areas. Totally okay. We can kind of talk through that either separately, or we have another session that we'll talk about a little bit at the end that's going to be for advanced credit students as well. So if that speaks to you, you can always come and speak to us. Otherwise, we have some other sessions coming up that should cover some of those cases too. So English requirement, we have 2 options essentially. And the main recommended option most of our engineering students will take is Words 150B. So Words 150B is the course that's designed to introduce and prepare you for university level research and writing, and kind of covers a variety of different topics, which will be posted just before registration, usually a couple of weeks before, on the department site for the School of Journalism, Writing and Media, who offer the course. So there's essentially a list of different topics that may be covered as part of Words 150B, and potentially you're kind of trying to find a topic that suits you alongside a class that fits in with your timetable, all those kind of different pieces. But this is very much the recommended option for most students to meet this requirement. There is an other option, however, which is English 110 or 111, and those English courses are going to be much more literature and writing heavy. So, we want to think about, okay, am I a student that's really enjoyed maybe my previous study in English? Am I a big reader? Would I love doing literature on the side of my engineering studies? Is that something that's really going to benefit me as an alternative here? Or am I better going for the kind of typical, more recommended option of Words 150? It's how that decision might look. Again, if you're struggling with that decision, you can always come and speak to us separately. We'll be very happy to have that conversation further. So our other option, again, in most cases, you're going to be taking as part of your first year is your humanities and social science course. So what constitutes a humanities social science course? Essentially, there are a number of different subject areas, typically in the Faculty of Arts, that are going to be covered in humanities and social science. So humanities is defined as a study of human culture. So some examples are listed here for you: histories, classics, literature, language, a number of different areas that you could consider studying in. Social science, we're talking about a study of society, anthropology, sociology, political science, and economics. So some very common areas there that our students might take their humanities social science in. The restrictions that you may want to consider here are that no technical, scientific, or lab-based courses are approved to meet this requirement. This is going to be anything that's a little bit too close to that engineering study that you're doing. The idea of this is that it adds breadth to your studies. You're doing something a little bit different as part of your first year or in later years in other cases. So no scientific, geography, or statistics courses either. Now, the other thing you can't do is go too far into non-classroom study by taking a studio or performance course in, say, music or theatre. So it has to be a kind of written standard classroom-based course. And no medical terminology, again, falls under the too scientific kind of rule here as well. So when it comes to selecting a humanities social science, what we want to do is make sure that we're rounding out our degree and thinking about what's going to be best for us. So thinking about our interests and strengths. If there's a subject area that we've studied previously and done well in, or that we have a strong interest in, this could be a nice complement to the rest of our first year study in engineering. We also want to practically think about what fits within our timetable, just what are the logistics looking like? Do I have a gap at that time that the course is offered? Is it first thing in the morning on a Monday morning, and I'd like to avoid that if I can and go for something else and compromise to not have that kind of that set out in terms of the timetable as well. Lots of different logistical elements to making this decision, but wants to be rooted in what's really going to benefit you and add breadth to your studies. The other thing to consider is the course level. So 300 and 400 level courses or third or fourth year level courses at UBC, usually going to require a higher reading load and writing requirements. You want to just be a little bit careful while you're in your first year, taking a relatively heavy engineering course load, not to put too much on your plate when you can absolutely select a 100 or 200 level course to meet this requirement. Make life a little bit easier for yourself in what's already going to be a difficult year. So maximum of 3 credits and a language course is another requirement here. So if you're going to take a language course to meet humanities social science in your first year, essentially as part of humanities and social science, you take 6 credits at some point during your degree. So most students take 3 in first year and then 3 credits in an upper year. If you're going to do language as part of your first year, Spanish, French, German, Chinese, any of those, then you're going to only have 3 credits maximum that you can use of language. So if you do another one in an upper year, it will need to be a non-language humanities social science. We do have a pre-approved list of humanities social science courses that will be linked right there on the version of this that will be sent to you after the session. So you can take a look at all of the pre-approved humanities social science courses. There is a huge database of them, so you will not be short of options. Again, it just comes down to what fits within your schedule, and it's something that would be a good fit for yourselves in terms of all of these kind of different considerations. And one last little reminder, if you are sat here and you are on the pre-biomedical timetable, the PBME timetable, don't worry about this just yet. You'll take your humanities social science later and not as part of your first year study. So back to Callie to talk to you about saved schedules.
Thank you so much, John. All right, so how to plan these English and humanity courses? Well, you can use the saved schedule. A saved schedule is a work list that allows you to create potential timetables for registration. You can register for courses via saved schedule by clicking Start Registration. A good practice is to register in term 1 first and then term 2. EAS recommends making a minimum of 2 to 3 saved schedules, as the course or section might be filling up while you register. Having multiple saved schedules increases your chances of registering quickly and with little issue. We won't be going over the step-by-step of how to make a saved schedule, but we will include links to tutorials from enrollment services in the information we send after this session. After logging into Workday, click the Academics tab in the Your Top Apps menu on the right side of the page. Click the Registration and Courses tab in the top menu. Once the registration menu, to the very right, a saved schedule. Click Find Course Section link. You must start here to build a saved schedule. And yes, folks, there's a lot of information, but again, all this information will be coming to you. So don't panic or don't worry. This is sort of just to Review it. Here's how to create a save schedule. The information is also available, just as I noted, on UBC's website, so no worries if you need to refer back to it later. All right. Use the search filters on the left to narrow your results. You can filter by meeting time, meeting day, course level, delivery mode, and more. Click the checkbox next to the filter you want to apply. Your search results will be updated automatically. The next step is to save the course you want to add to your saved schedule. Click the course title and a pop-up window will open for you. Check the course description for registration requirements. We encourage you to always check the description for prerequisites, co-requisites, and restrictions. Add all the required activities to your saved schedule and click Add to Save Schedule button right below, big orange button there. Select Create Student Registration Saved Schedule. If you're creating a new saved schedule and end up with multiple versions, be sure to name each one clearly so you can easily identify it later. Or choose a pre-existing one you've already created by selecting All and choose the one you want to add the course to. Click the Choose Times button to select your course selections. Click the checkbox in the Select column to add a course activity to your schedule. You can only select one section for each activity. Add a section for each of the required activities for the course. For example, you may need to take a discussion or tutorial on top of the weekly lectures. You can click the Add Course Sections button to continue adding courses to your saved schedule. Once you're done adding courses to your saved schedule, click the orange button once again, named Done. And I'm going to pass it back to John.
Thank you so much. Okay. So we wanted to give you a few tips here on building a saved schedule, making sure that we are thinking about what's going to be best for us. Just a few things that we've learned over the last little bit of time here on some tips that are going to help you out. One of the things I'd really recommend is, if you can, have two screens. So whether that is two devices, whether that is one device with two screens up, whatever that looks like for you, even a big screen that you're able to split into two windows, whatever works best. Just because it can be really helpful to have your registered classes open, i.e. the engineering classes that we will have registered you in, alongside that search for those humanities, social science, for those English classes, to be able to cross-reference there, okay, like, do I have that slot free? Do I have that time free? Like, just being able to see both on one screen rather than flipping back and forth can be quite useful. Again, Callie had touched upon really briefly earlier that the Workday app on your phone can be a little unuseful in many ways. There is a schedule view on there that can be somewhat helpful, but generally speaking, your schedule view is going to be somewhat limited here. So having two screens up that allow you to cross-reference can be really, really helpful as part of this. We would also, as we've already suggested, have multiple saved schedule opens. So have a few different options here of saved schedules. You can flip to if you're not quite, things aren't quite working out when you go to register. So let's say you've got a saved schedule that has your English class on it and has your humanities class. You've made sure that they fit your timetable. We're good to go. But then our registration opens and that English class is full. And then we go to register it and it doesn't quite work out. And then we're then having to, rush around and try and find another English class. No, let's make sure we have 2 or 3 saved schedules line up that work within our schedule. That if that, for some reason, that first schedule doesn't quite work out, we're just on our registration time. Okay, we'll pivot to number 2. We'll pivot to number 3. We've kind of prearranged that those are going to work. So it makes it much easier, much less anxiety inducing on the day when your registration opens to just be able to click in and register and be good to go. Now, you may have an alert pop up when you go to register anything, and we'd always recommend getting out the magnifying glass and becoming a detective to figure out why an error might be there. Is there a prereq or co-req issue? That's going to be much more apparent when it comes to second year and above classes. But again, if you're looking to take one of those humanities of an upper year level, it may be that there's a prerequisite there that you need to meet another course beforehand. Or the other thing that might more often come up is if there is multiple sections you need to add for a class. So there's a lecture, for example, and then a discussion section, or a lecture and a laboratory section. You might need to add both to avoid getting that error. So just making sure that you haven't forgotten to add a section, just checking into what that error looks like, what's happening for you. And if you can't figure it out, we're here. We're absolutely happy to support you at any time. So whether that's reaching out on an email, coming to us in person, joining us in one of our quick question sessions, like any way that helps you, we're going to be here to support. So key thing always is don't panic too much. One thing I would also say is any of you who have been to the UBC campus so far, you will note that it's quite large. And therefore, although there are 10-minute breaks between classes, you might not immediately notice this on your schedule. It might look like classes are back to back and one starts as another finishes. Your classes will end about 10 minutes before the hour to allow you to travel to your next class if you have one coming next. In most cases, with your engineering timetable, you'll obviously be moving probably in a group to your next class. But if you are scheduling like a humanities, social science immediately after one of your engineering classes, you might just want to check whereabouts on the campus they are, and make sure that you're not sprinting across campus in that 10-minute break, unless that's something that you're interested in, getting your steps up, getting a little exercise in before classes. Fair. But yeah, just want to be something that you consider as part of this for sure. And then the one other thing I would say is that the add drop deadline is there for you as well. So registering for your classes at this time is not final. You can continue adding and dropping classes until the add drop deadline. That is after the first 2 weeks of classes, essentially. So September 15th for term one and January 16th for term two classes. So any changes to your registration before those dates are absolutely acceptable or absolutely okay. So we can still make some changes after our registration date, even though for various reasons we would recommend you registering as soon as possible, as we said before. And the other thing is if you're looking for specific seats, specific classes, sometimes some of those may be more available nearer the start of term. So just something to watch out for as well. I would always say come and see us if that's you, if you're waiting for specific seats, specific sections, especially if we start to get to the first week of term and you're still waiting. Just want to make sure that you have an appropriate kind of backup plan in place and that everything is all in place for you to meet all of the requirements you want to meet. So absolutely another case where come and see us if you have any questions or issues as we move forward here in the coming months. So another thing I wanted to just touch upon a little bit here is balancing your timetable. So good news, in most cases, you will see a fairly balanced timetable when we add your engineering classes, when everything is all in place for you. So you shouldn't see a timetable where term one has very few courses, term two has lots more. Generally speaking, it will be fairly balanced. But there are cases, especially if you are expecting extensive advanced credits, so AP, IB, and A-level credits, that you might see some balance here kind of being readdressed as a result. So first of all, if that's you, again, we have a session upcoming. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. I am happy to talk about it a little bit more here today as well in the Q&A. And then also you can always come and see us. But just to kind of outline a little bit here, how this might look depending on what your timetable looks like. We'd recommend registering for most students their English and humanities in each term, so in opposite terms. So English in one term, humanities in another. For your pre-biomed students, again, don't take humanities in the first year. You should register English in term one. That balances your timetable much better in most cases. Pre-med students, again, it's English and humanities, but both in term one. So that is a small group of not pre-biomedical students, but students who are on a pre-med pathway, so hoping to go to med school after. And then there are honours math and phys deficient students there as well, who should also register in opposite terms. So That gives you a bit of an initial impression of how most students should consider things. But again, if you're an individual case, if you have other things going on, if you're using extensive amount of credits, anything like this, like we'd always be happy to speak about your individual case further anytime before you start here, just to make sure we have the right things in place for you. Okay. So there is a scenario here where you go forward and there are no course times in your schedule, where you have not found anything in your schedule, or that your schedule is there, you have your engineering classes, but you don't have times or classrooms or locations next to those classes. Now, if that is the case for you, please don't panic. Go ahead and build your saved schedule with those self-registration courses, so with the humanities that you would pick to take, with an English Words 150 or an alternative English that you wish to take. And essentially, when we program in for you your engineering courses, your core courses, the registration team will try their best to work around the scheduled courses that you already have in. So if you have your English and your humanities already in place at the time when we go to kind of put in your specifics of your engineering classes, they will try and work around that and be in contact with you if there are any issues. Again, if this happens to you and you're concerned about anything, please feel free to come and speak to us. But just wanted to put this out there so you're not receiving this and panicking and worrying that there's something wrong. Totally normal, totally okay. Just go ahead and register those classes and come and see us if you have any concerns or any issues. Okay, so after all of this prep happens, so once we've done all of these things that we've talked about here today, what happens when registration goes live and we want to register from our saved schedules? We've done our preparation, we've built everything up in the days before, we've cross-checked everything and made sure, okay, these courses are the ones that fit my timetable, I am good to go, this is what I want. Then what you're going to find is you're going to bring up your save schedule, again, the same ways that we've spoken about earlier in the session. The slides will come to you after if you need to revisit any of that information. Very happy for you to do so. But you'll see under your save schedule, once your registration window opens, a start registration button. So that's the orange button that you can see on a screenshot on screen just now. From that start registration button, you will be brought to a new page. This is actually the one in a screenshot. I lied before. This is the start registration from a saved schedule page that you'll be brought to after you click start registration. And you'll see this time in the bottom left, instead of start registration, it says register. And essentially, once you're ready to go, this screen is going to basically have all of the courses that you'd already added to your saved schedule on it, and you'll be able to go ahead and click register, and that will process all of your registrations for you. So that should work okay. Once you complete your registration, though, you will find out whether it worked okay. So once you click that registration button, it's going to bring you onto the next screen. As long as things worked out, as long as that was successful, at the bottom of the screen here is exactly what you'll see. You'll see those successful registrations. You'll be in your classes. You'll be feeling good, and you'll be good to go. There are two other potential outcomes here, though, which is unsuccessful registrations or waitlisted registrations. So unsuccessful registrations means you've not been able to register in the course. So in the event of this happening with a humanities or social science course, we would strongly recommend finding an alternative course. And maybe it's another saved schedule you've already got, or maybe you're going and finding a course separate from that. Again, if you need any help with this, reach out to us. We're always happy to talk you through it. So we would recommend in this case where it's not been successful that we find an alternative. In the case of a waitlist, again, these can be moved a little bit closer to the time. So we can see seats open up a little bit later in the term. So it may be that you want to stay on that waitlist for a little period of time if this is a course or section that you are really, really strongly interested in taking above all others. However, as we get closer to the time of term starting, of the beginning of classes, it would certainly be in your interest to have an alternative ready that has seats available that you can register into, so you're not missing content, so you're not potentially missing that requirement to go after a waitlisted seat. So absolutely, again, the key answer here, if you find yourself in one of the first two categories and you're not quite sure what to do there, please come and see us. We'll be very happy to chat you through your options and what we would consider thinking about. The other thing you might want to know is, okay, this didn't work out. I had an unsuccessful or a waitlist registration and I want to go back to it. Do I need to go ahead and set up a save schedule all over again now that I am in my class, now that I have my registration open? Like now that my registration is ready for me to go and I can register in any class I want, do I need to go back to the saved schedule and build another one out? No. Once your registration time is open, you can go ahead and find the course section that you'd like to register in. And instead of adding it to your saved schedule, there'll be a register button. So instead of having to build out a saved schedule again, once you're able to register, once that's open, you can go ahead and click register instead. So this will save you a little bit of time once that registration window is open if you do need to pivot around from anything outside of your saved schedule. Again, hopefully this won't be the case, but always good to know. Just if you do find yourself in that position, you will be able to go ahead and register directly as long as there are seats available in that class. Okay, and what if the registration button just doesn't appear at all? Again, maybe this is a case where seats are full, we don't meet the prerequisites, it's restricted in some way. You can click troubleshoot and it will give you a little bit more understanding of what's going on. Again, pull out that magnifying glass and become a detective here and try and figure out what the issue is. Again, if you can't quite figure it out for whatever reason, totally okay. This is going to be your first time using the system. Good news is it's not ours. We're going to be totally happy to talk you through any of those things, any of your other options, and anything you're struggling with there. So please get in contact in whatever way feels good to you. And back over to Callie.
All right, thanks, John. And folks, we are more than halfway through, so thanks for hanging in there. Okay, so if you have questions about course registration or selection, please visit our first year registration page. I cannot stress this enough. This is such a great website to refer back to. The registration FAQ webpage is also available from the first year registration page. Checking this page will be the fastest way to find an answer for popular questions, but also note, and John has mentioned this quite a few times, we are always available to help you through this, okay? You're never alone in this process. So if you can't find an answer on the website, virtual drop-in sessions are available for quick questions, all right? The drop-in session schedule is posted on the website. Also, please go through the 2025 Get Set for UBC Engineering Handbook on Canvas. New modules are released in June, July, and August. Exciting stuff. Okay, now we'd like to review a few of the questions that many of our first year students asked. So maybe we're getting through some of the questions in the Q&A, hopefully. First common question is, can I take less courses in my first year? Students are expected to take the full year course load. Students with AP or IB credits might be able to drop from the courses, but please do not drop until the credits are confirmed in your transfer credit section on Workday. I can't stress this enough. Students that need to take certain credit amounts due to having a scholarship, loans, being on a visa, in student housing, being a student athlete, or having guaranteed placement should consult one of us, an EAS advisor, before performing a drop action. If you want to reduce your course load, please speak with an EAS advisor, such as myself or John. Next question, can I swap the course section I was pre-registered in? We would not recommend swapping pre-registered engineering courses because although there is a swap button, this will not work for most of your courses. First year program timetables are quite complex with many courses that uniquely fit together. To change one course, you must change many courses, and often not all these courses have seats open to swap into. If you have extenuating circumstances, we will accommodate a section switch where possible. The section switch request form, along with the eligibility requirements, are all on our website, Engineering Academic Services. Documentation may be required for this. If there's an open general seat that fits perfectly into your timetable, you can attempt the swap course option after your registration time has opened. All right, so what if I accidentally drop a course by accident? This happens for sure, folks. First of all, please do not drop a course you are pre-registered into if you can help it, and consult with an academic advisor if you'd like to. If you do that by mistake, again, this happens, please register on the wait list of the course and we'll do our very best to re-register you back to the course. But we can't guarantee if you'll get back to the exact same section you were originally registered into. If you have AP, IB, or A-level credits and thinking to drop a course, please come talk with an academic advisor first. Myself, John, we've got 7 on staff. We're going to send you an email including all the information that we discussed today, the slides, and access to the recording of this workshop, answers to common questions, and links to our website. So if you forget something, no worries, you can review this in the email. Back over to John.
Cool. Thank you so much. So just before we get to questions, I'd like to talk about a couple of things. One is that there is a short feedback survey that will be posted in the chat here and sent on to you after the session as well. We'd love to hear from you if you have anything about the session that you particularly enjoyed, would like us to improve, or just how the information went for you. Would be really happy to hear from you on that. On that note as well, there's a couple of things I would love to just clarify a little bit further before we get to the formal Q&A section here, because I know there are a couple of common questions that we've had, but that have now kind of been answered in the section here. So I know there's been some questions from students that relate more to you having done as a student already your timetable Qualtrics form, declared kind of, which timetable you were interested in, whether that was, pre-biomedical or the general timetables and specifics around that. So we have received those forms for the timetable you want, and we're currently working on registering students over the next few weeks. So totally normal right now that you would not yet be seeing those engineering classes on your Workday if you're looking. They will be in by the time you go ahead and go to register your humanities or your English. So that will all be in place by that time over the next few weeks. So that is very much in hand and something that you can look out for coming here. The other thing that I just wanted to say is that we do have a number of sessions coming up here. And you may note when you booked for this session that there was kind of 3 first-year registration workshops. The content in those very, very similar. So we're going to be covering much the same stuff in those other 2 as we have done here today. So if you've attended today, not necessary for you to attend one of those unless you'd love to hear more from us of much of the same, or have a question we didn't quite get to. But there is a specific advanced credit workshop coming up and a transfer student workshop coming up as well. So if you do belong to one of those specific groups, let's say you wondering what to do with your AP, IB, or A-level credits, the advanced credit workshop would be a really good one to come to. And we've timed that specifically so that you may have some of your results coming in by then and be able to make those decisions around what's going to work best for you. So just a couple of pieces I wanted to get to before we went to our Q&A here. And just really happy to start answering some of your questions here. Again, if you have any still remaining, the Q&A function is here on Zoom for you. You are very welcome to ask any questions in there, also to upvote questions that you feel you would love to hear the answer to for Callie and I to pick out and speak to live, or to be answered by our student support team in the background here. So I will take first question here, which is, I'm going to take the one right at the top here. I'm going to answer your most popular question, which is, what about students who might not have an AP result by registration time for a class that is acceptable for being used in place of the first year humanities class? Would they need to revise their registration later? That's a wonderful question. When it comes to most AP, IB, and A-level credit, our recommendation is very much so that you remain in the UBC class, or in the case that you're not like a humanities or an English class, often the case that we would recommend registering something until you're sure that that credit is on your record, until it's very clear that you've met that requirement, just to make sure that you are everything is in place for you. With humanities specifically, there is a little bit more scope there. And if, of course, you've received your results already, you know that this is a course that meets the humanities requirement, that you are good to go there. You could register a placeholder humanities class until you're very sure that this credit has come through, that everything is all in place, that we have confirmed with you that you can use that towards your first year registration, all of those different kind of pieces if you want to be very safe. Um, so that would absolutely be an option, would be to register a placeholder course for humanities. With humanities, a little bit less mandatory in terms of that placeholder section. We can usually, because there are so many different classes that meet that requirement, if we do find ourselves in a situation where we're just before the first week of classes and our credit still hasn't come through and we're a little bit worried, there's more likely to be a remaining option that's going to fit your timetable and everything than there might be with other classes. So you can kind of wait a little bit for that if you need to receive your result. But if you want to be really safe and really sure, I'd recommend registering a placeholder humanities course for now, and then just making sure that if you are going to use your API BA level credit once it's received, once it's on the system, that you're dropping that humanities course that you've picked up ahead of the add drop deadline, again, about 2 weeks into classes.
John, I'm going to take a question that actually comes up a lot for us advisors. So this is why I'm going to answer this live. Coming in from anonymous. Do we only register for humanities classes? Are the core courses pre-done? So you're going to register for your Words 150 and your humanities. The rest of the courses are going to be pre-registered by our team. Okay, so nice and simple, but this question comes up a lot. So I just wanted to sort of answer that right away. Some great questions.
Yeah. So our next top question here, which I'll take again, is should we wait until after our course schedule is finalized to start creating saved schedules? And I would say this would absolutely be something that I would consider doing, just because if you're creating saved schedules now and then your course schedule of your engineering classes just doesn't match any of those, that's probably going to mean that you're redoing your saved schedules again. What I would recommend doing now is maybe you start to take a look, if you have time, at what humanities are available, what would interest you, thinking about whether you would like to take Words 150 or one of the alternative English classes. Like, these are some things that you can start to think about. And again, very shortly, you'll be given access to our Canvas page or the engineering handbook for incoming engineering students. That's going to start to prepare you in terms of many things here that you might want to kind of start to look into. So appreciate you being really keen at this stage. Love that you've joined us here today at this relatively early stage to get some more information of how things are going to look. Yeah, but I would recommend when it comes to the saved schedules element that you hold fire just shortly here until we have your engineering classes all loaded up on your record, because then you're not going to know where those gaps exist for you to plug in those humanities and the English classes that are going to fit in for you, rather than having to figure all of those things out again later when it turns out that your humanities that you wanted clashes with one of your engineering classes.
Fantastic, John. I'm going to take another question that I see quite a bit, and John, I'm sure you know this one. This is a great question. If I take humanities and English in the summer, will it affect my chances of admitting to a particular engineering stream? Okay, so this comes up quite a bit for us. You need to have 27 out of our 37 credits complete by April 30th. So that's winter session, term 1 and term 2. Nothing in the summer, okay, will count towards second placement. It will count towards your degree if you take courses in the summer, however, will not count towards second. So you can drop courses. I will say the more that we drop, the riskier it gets. So if we're down to 28 credits, we fill a course, second year placement doesn't go through, okay? So I just want to be very clear. And again, we'll probably talk more about this if you come in and meet with us as an advising appointment or come to quick questions. This comes up quite a bit. 27 out of our 37 credits need to be done by April 30th, no exceptions. So if you do drop courses, you want to reduce your course load, just know it's a bit risky. It's possible, but that's a bit risky. If you want to talk to us to kind of work that out, completely okay. I see this question quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm absolutely with you, Callie, and I would go one step further to say come and see us before you decide to drop anything or to not add anything. Like if you're not taking on your humanities this year, or you're not taking on like your English, for example, this year, or any of the other classes, like just know there can be implications for that. So both the 27 credits rule of 27 credits minimum of the 37 need to be met over the winter, but also depending on what specialization you want to go into, some of the prereqs can be really important. For mechanical engineering, just as one example, prereqs need to be met by a specific date, so moving things into the summer can get a little tricky. There are a
Mhm.
number of different little things that you would need to consider there based on your own individual case as to what's going to be best for you. In most cases, ideally, we recommend completing all requirements over the winter, but we appreciate that doesn't speak to every single student. And you're going to have your own individual case. So we'd love to treat it as such and have you come and see us and let us know what's important for you, what you're working towards, what your challenges are, and work with you on a tailored kind of plan for that and what's going to work out best for you before you make any decisions that might have an impact later on.
I'm just gonna slip in there with one more, John, if you don't
Sure.
mind, and feel free
Go
to
ahead.
cut in. Choosing this one, is all this happening between June 24th through the 26th, or can we start planning earlier? Start planning earlier. It's a great question. So please, this is your registration when it opens. So you want to start planning. You can start going in and start looking at the different courses sections, looking at Workday. You can start reviewing our website. You can meet with us, whatever you need to get going. But this is your registration time when this opens. Yeah,
Yeah,
common question.
you'll get your courses registered in the next couple of weeks for your engineering classes. You should receive notification when that happens as well. So at that point, once your engineering classes have been registered for you, that's going to be the time where we'd recommend jumping in, making a saved schedule. That's going to be when you know what your engineering course load looks like. So you can then figure out, okay, where are the gaps? What am I doing? What am I fitting
Yeah.
in? But certainly ahead of your registration time opening, because if you're waiting until that time and then trying to put things together, like it could just be a little panicked. I always think preparation can be a key tool here in making sure that we have success. I will jump on the.
Sorry, just
Oh
to,
yeah, go ahead.
sorry, there, John. Just to finalize, so that would be, you're planning out your words and your humanities, okay? So, and then PBME, no humanities. Just wanted to finish that up. Sorry,
Yep,
John.
very good point. Very good point. Okay, to confirm, we would be registering for just one section of Words 150. Absolutely correct. So, Words 150 or English 110, 111, like one of those alternative courses, you only need one of those. You don't need to go for multiple sections of Words. The only reason why you'd be adding multiple sections is in that saved schedule beforehand. So you might have multiple saved schedules that have in them different sections of Words that are different topics, different times that fit in with your engineering classes. So that if you go to register when registration goes live and your first saved schedule has a section of Words 150 that you are planning for, and that section happens to be full by the time you go to register, you then have another save schedule ready to go that you can just use and register another section of Words that does then have the availability for you. So that's the only reason why you'd be considering multiple sections of Words at this time. Once your registration is complete, you should only have one section of Words, or again, instead the alternative potentially as well. But only one of those, and then one humanities, social science, unless you're in pre-biomedical.
Okay, folks, we just have 3 more minutes here, and promise you, you're going to get your questions answered one way or another. I have a good question here. Can I have a language course for my own country? So I'm guessing this is pertaining to your humanities, which 3 of those 6 credits needed for your degree requirement you can use towards a language. So if you are fluent, let's say in French, the French department may allow you to take this course, like beginner French. Often I've seen students having to do a bit of a quiz to see where their competency lies, or they say they're just too fluent and they're not going to accept this course for them. So it really truly depends if you're fluent or maybe you didn't learn the language, whatever the case may be. You can absolutely come and talk to us about that separately, but generally, if you're fluent, it's usually not a good idea to do this. So you can choose another language, but only 3 credits of those 6 can be used towards a language. And John said this, mentioned this before, there's over 700 courses to choose from in our database. You won't have a problem finding another course.
Yeah,
Great
exactly the
question.
case.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's usually, as Callie says, as an evaluation takes place. So if you're looking to do like a 100 level course of a language you're already fluent in, probably want to think again and pick something else here. It's likely that you'd be evaluated at a much higher level than that. So yeah, most commonly, if you're doing a language course, for example, it's either going to be a higher level or it's going to be a 100 level for a language that you have little familiarity with. But yeah, great question. Um, okay, I don't get the save schedules. I would love to answer this one. So very fair. That is completely okay. You don't have to get everything at this time. You know, the purpose of our session here today is to try and give a bit of an understanding and introduction to these things. Again, you'll get some links and everything afterwards here that are going to reinforce this knowledge, and you're very welcome to meet with us individually as well. Like we are very happy to help here. You do not add all of the courses. You're only going to add the courses that you aren't automatically registered in. However, you are going to have, you know, what I would suggest, as I said earlier, is have potentially 2 screens open. One that has your current classes that you have been registered in, your engineering classes. So you can see what that looks like when the timings are. And then you're going to have, you know, your options for your humanities, social science, for your saved schedule, for example, where you're going to start to figure out, okay, I have right now no class between 4 and 6 on Monday. There is an Words 150 section between 4 and 6 on Monday that really fits with my interests that I would love to take. Let's go ahead and add that to my saved schedule to meet the Words requirement. There was a little follow-up question here as well. Do I need to consider timings of other things like clubs, lunch, dinner? Absolutely. You know, anything that is important to you, you should consider. Certainly, you know, we have students, for example, in a more serious case, that might have set medical appointments at specific times of the week, all those kind of different things going on. If you know that you have specific commitments that you need to work around, you can try and consider that as part of your own scheduling. I would say if it's something that is much more serious, like an ongoing medical appointment, and we do have something that clashes, perhaps in something you're already registered in, or then we can work with you. So if that speaks to you in any way, please come and see us. But yeah, you want to be considering, like I said, kind of a variety of things when it comes to registering your classes. You know, that could be back to back with another class, and location is a long way away. It could be a variety of different things you're thinking about here. If you have specific times you'd like to take lunch, engineering schedule is probably going to make it really difficult to be extremely consistent day to day with things like that, just because it tends to be a little heavier. But yeah, you can absolutely, you know, your opportunity here with your humanities, social science, and your English is to have some control and some say over these 2 elective classes, and what would fit best for you and when would fit best for you as well within your engineering timetable. So again, any issues that you have with that, you're very welcome to speak to us. But yeah, hopefully that gives you an introduction here today. Is what we're aiming to do is give you an overview, an introduction to some of these things, knowing that as incoming first year students, you know, this might be your first time receiving some of this information. As Callie said, you don't need to memorize all of this information. We appreciate it's a lot, but this is your first show of it, and we're going to be following up with more information, with links, with all of these kind of different pieces afterwards. And you're always very welcome to contact us individually as well.
This is it. John articulated perfectly, and truly, the Engineering Academic Services website is going to be your best friend. It's got so much pertinent information, and we are always available to help you, no matter what time, of course, within business hours. But yeah, we're always available to advise. So please don't worry. I know we both understand there's so much information out there. We just take it step by step, and promise you will get a handle on it. Promise you.
Absolutely. And with that, we thank you so much for joining us here today. We have completed all questions, which is miraculous. I would thank very much our student support team who have been working diligently in the background here to answer many of your
Absolutely.
questions. I'd like to advertise our upcoming session here. Again, if you are an AP, IB, or A-level student and you are curious about your advanced credits, you're very welcome to join us on the 12th of August, where we will be chatting through those things more. If you have any questions in the interim, you're very welcome to contact us. If you are registered on one of these other first-year registration sessions, don't need to worry too much about coming to them unless you feel like there is something you missed here today that you would love to review with us, and we can absolutely give you this information once again. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us here today, and we hope to speak to you and see you very soon here in UBC Engineering.
Bye, everyone. Congratulations.